I'm like, oh, you ready? Oh, y'all ready? Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Let's do it, baby. I'm so excited. Let's do it. It's that time, bro. That's what they said.
Chapter 4, Instinct.
It's time to wake up.
Sometimes it's good to listen and even react to your first feeling, or more commonly referred to as instinct. Noun, a way of behaving, thinking, or feeling that is not learned. A natural desire or tendency that makes you act in a particular way. Something you know without learning or thinking about it. Ever since I was young, I've heard the saying, listen to your gut feeling never lies. It was a challenging road coming to terms with this known truth, because sometimes you don't want to accept the truth. Sometimes we're so caught up in our perception of the moment that what we internally feel to be true, we deny. Well, I can't speak for you, but I know I've been guilty of this. In fact, that's how I became aware of the importance of using my intangible asset, instinct. A journey back. I imagine the first time you became aware of how essential using your instincts were was around the first time you touched the hot stove. You probably looked at it and thought about touching it, so you walked a little closer. As you began to heat up, you thought, maybe I shouldn't touch the stove because I'm getting hot the closer I get. Yet by that time, the urge was too strong. You figured, I came this close, I have to touch it. After touching it, I imagine you instantly became instinctually aware that you should be careful around hot stoves. Hot stoves. I've touched my fair share of hot stoves, yet this isn't the right time to share those stories. But today I have time, because you have just finished listening to the Intangibles Chapter 4, Instinct. If you'd like to learn more on how I've utilized my intangible asset, instinct, on my journey of success through specifically my day-to-day business of real estate investing, definitely go ahead and get your copy of the Intangibles today. The link is in the description. But right now we'll stay here with how I have carefully maneuvered around hot stove.
You could sit back, relax, reminisce about how you was this and did that, but it's less about what you did, more about who you is and how you impacting these kids. How you impacting these kids? Get stepping. Get stepping. Get stepping, because it's less about what you did, more about who you is and how you impacting these kids. More about who you is and how you impacting these kids. Yeah, that's the one right there. Until next time, as always, get stepping, get stepping, get stepping, get stepping.
At 11 years old, I was faced with a life-changing decision. See, I could either move with my father or stay living with my mom, whom I lived with for my entire life. But it was more than just living with my mom and dad. My mom, she stayed in Cincinnati, the inner city. My father, he had just relocated to Mason, Ohio, which was a better school district, and they both agreed that it could give me access to better opportunities and away from the temptations of the environment that they grew up in. But for myself, part of me did want to live with my dad just because it would be a different kind of experience growing up living with him versus, living with my mom for the past 11 years. But also it was a challenge thinking about some of my friends and some of the relationships that I'd already established from the school that I grew up in, to basically not have those relationships anymore, because Mason, Ohio was about 30 minutes away from my school district, but also it's a lifetime when we're speaking about the environment. So it was a lot for me to weigh. I felt if my mom had it her way, she would continue how things were currently going. However, my dad noticed the importance of getting a kid like myself with many would classify behavior issues at the time out of an environment with with so many temptations. See, throughout his adolescence, he went to Cincinnati public schools, and he grew up with a lot of friends robbing, stealing, selling drugs, fighting. His closest friend ended up serving about a decade in prison at a early age, as an early teen. And he even had his dance with the devil a few times himself. And when he looked at me, he saw a lot of himself in me at 11 years old. And he didn't want me to end up with that same fate. So once my parents sat me down and explained to me all of the benefits and new opportunities that I can have by going to Mason School District, you know, we decided to hit the road and take a little road trip up there so I can visit the school. So if you're not familiar with Mason, Ohio, you know, it's home to Kings Island, which is a kind of popular amusement park in Ohio. And the only thing I knew about Mason was Kings Island. The only time I traveled to Mason was to go to Kings Island, and that would always be like a field trip. It would feel like it's like traveling to Dayton or traveling to like Columbus or something. It felt like it was really far out, is my point. So when I drove out there to visit the school, I didn't really know what to expect. But instantly, when we pulled up to the middle school and we walked around the campus, and literally I call it a campus because at that age, at 11 years old, I didn't know what a college campus was, but I felt like it was Mason. So I was very impressed by just looking at the school and, you know, looking at the football stadium and just looking at the magnitude of everything. It was unlike any type of surroundings I'd ever been in at my, you know, young life. So outside looking in, just instantly based off that, I was already sold. As the years passed by, from 7th to 12th grade, I graduated from Mason High School. My parents, my family, we all figured out that sometimes either fate is inevitable or everything that glitters isn't gold. But before we get into it, you know we gotta get into it. Let's talk about where we at today. So today we are at Shaw Butte from 15th Avenue. This is a moderate hike. It's estimated 1 hour and 24 minutes, and the length is 2.2 miles. And if you're confused on what you're looking at on your screen right here, this is All Trails. And All Trails, they don't sponsor my videos for some reason. It kind of makes me sad because I genuinely use All Trails, right? Like I genuinely use All Trails, and I haven't really covered why I use All Trails before, but let me go in a little further on why I use All Trails. For me, I use All Trails because, you know, as you guys see me hike up and down these mountains fast and, you know, running down these mountains just like I'm just free-spirited, it didn't start off that way, right? So first I had to actually learn the trail path. So the same way I'm showing you guys, you know, now on the trail path, now I didn't just look at it all day. I actually went out and I hiked the trail. But as I was hiking the trail, I had to refer back to All Trails to make sure I'm staying on course, because some of the trails that you go to, they're not that well marked. So since they're not well marked, the only way you know where you're at is due to the GPS location on All Trails. And that actually inspired me to go to the pro version of All Trails, because it makes sure, you know, even when your signal is out, it keeps your location and you're able to download the map, so you're able to see where you're at on the hike while you're, you know, hiking and your signal is out, so you're able to have that point of reference still. Now, on a deeper level, this is no different than your life, right? On your journey of success, you have to be willing to persist even when you aren't sure of the next step. See, before I ever became so confident of my hiking skills and also the trails that I'm hiking throughout this season, I practiced them multiple times and I wasn't afraid to hike them and then stop, check all trails, see where I'm going, hike up a little bit more, make sure, check all trails, make sure I'm still on track and I'm not about to fall off a cliff. I wasn't afraid to persist through that process to where I was able to gain the confidence to be able to, travel the journey, travel these trails how I am now. And the reason why I incorporated the journey is because I believe how you are in one area of life is how you will be in all areas of life. And for me, this hiking in and of itself is nothing more than a symbolism of my real life. Now, that being said, let's go ahead and hop back into this review. So, Shawview from 15th Avenue Trailhead is where we at. Let's go ahead and click into it. And, my real life is your real life as well. So hiking is no different than your real life as well. And, your reference point is my life story that I'm sharing with you guys. But I also designed the season that if you just wanted to press mute, you can just watch this, on your own time and just press mute and, get you a little vibe, get you some music, get you a little vibe together and just watch me go crazy on the mountains. So 2.2 miles length, let me go back, elevation gain 748 feet, route type is an out and back, view full map. So, right now we're about up in there somewhere, and as you travel, as we can see, compared to the previous ones, the grade is not as steep. I want you to pay attention to the blue dot moving at the bottom of the screen. The grade is not as steep, right? 24% is where we're at right now. Elevation, you see that steadily rises, and we go to the top, and we have 2,136 feet is our highest point. And it's a 14% grade to that last little, peak. And then this is an out and back. So this right here is going back down that same way. So right here, I decided to take a little detour. So, I connect that blue dot, or that blue dot right there. And I connect that blue trail back to the red. And we go all the way down. I connect it back to about right here. And then we go ahead and take it on home, connect it about right there. And we take it back home, which is here. So, again, estimated 1 hour and 24 minutes. For me, it takes 30 minutes when I don't have to record the hike in and of itself. It takes 30 minutes, and then recording time, it was about 40 minutes. Weather, that's this weekend. Ashley Martin, let's see what the people are saying. So we got Ashley, she gave it a 5 stars. She had some good things to say about it. Lori, she had some good things. Sam said he liked it, and Mario liked it. He gave it 2 reviews with the same rating, and Connie, she liked it as well. All right, guys, and again, if you are interested in learning, more about your hikes before you take those hikes, go ahead and check out All Trails. It was in Mason where I learned the importance of utilizing my intangible asset, instinct. I also learned how to utilize my instinct in Mason as well, due to the plethora of false accusations that I faced, ranging from theft to possession of illegal substance to unspeakable acts like sexual assault. If it weren't for my trust of utilizing my intangible asset, instinct, I possibly could not be here to share this moment with you. See, growing up, my father, he always preached the importance of keeping a good reputation, keeping my name clean. So in Mason, I really was tested with keeping my name clean for the rest of my life, because the situations that I encountered in Mason could have stuck with me to this present moment. However, I just like to share some of my experiences with these hot stoves and how I was able to carefully maneuver. See, Mason is voted number 20 by money.com as the 20th best place to live in the United States of America. So you may be wondering, how can you even face these kind of, situations as a adolescent in Mason, Ohio? Well, I can say it didn't always start out this way. Although by the end of it, I had some people who would have liked to see me in trouble that would have stuck with me for the rest of my life. But to start in the pure beginning phase, 7th grade, when I first got to Mason, the best thing used to be going to Kings Island. So Kings Island went from being a field trip destination to being something I can do pretty much a couple times a week because I had a gold pass. So you basically can go, anytime you want to with the gold pass. So that was the thing to do. It was to hit up the Kings Island, and also to hit up the beach water park. They had this little nightclub there for teens. So, middle school, that was a thing to do. As I had predicted earlier before I moved to Mason, my friends from Cincinnati Public School District and we stopped being close just due to me always being in Mason, and I also was playing sports, so that kept me, out there in Mason about 5 days a week. Though I did start to gain new acquaintances, and I say acquaintances because I've never been the type to use the term friend loosely. It typically takes some time for me to say I have a friendship with somebody. We have to go through experiences together. So I started to gain some new acquaintances, but I did end up forming a core friend group. And in my middle school days and even early high school, my core friend group really consisted of individuals like myself at the time, where they moved from an inner city kind of neighborhood, and their parents, did what they had to do to get them out of that environment and condition with temptations around to get them into the 20th best place to live in the United States, which was Mason, Ohio. So that was my core friend group. It was a bunch of young black kids that were in a situation, in a new environment, where we all, ultimately we all didn't really need much. Our parents made sure that we were all, had our basic needs covered and really had wants covered as well, right? But for us, even at a young age, 12, 13 years old, we always had needs that super exceeded what we were able to attain without our own doing. See, some of our acquaintances, they came from money, where their parents were, successful entrepreneurs or CEOs, and, they lived in these big houses, and anytime, the newest shoes or the newest clothes and the newest technology came out, they always had it. They could go out to eat, go to the movies, do whatever they wanted to, whenever they wanted to. That was Mason, Ohio, and that was a great portion of my acquaintances that I would hang out with. Though from my core friend group, we, seeing that really only intensified our hungriness. So that led to my first entrepreneurial efforts at a young age, where, I had a couple $100 in my nightstand, just to take a little shorty out to eat on a little date or something, and go to the mall, buy what I want, just basically do what I want from a financial perspective without having to always ask my parents. Though now I realize at that time we were so focused on what we didn't have that we never fully celebrated or rejoiced in the fact of the opportunity that we did have by going to Mason. Instead, some of my friends, they even glorified the environments that our parents wanted us to move away from, and that our parents worked so hard to move us away from. They glorified those environments as if it were a better place to be than Mason when it came from an opportunity standpoint, but they weren't looking at it from an opportunity standpoint. They were just looking at it from the fun that you could have in the city opposed to, the fun and the people that was available to us in Mason. So as time passed along and, as the years passed by, as we grew older, we subconsciously maybe ended up bringing those conditions that our parents worked so hard to get us away from. We brought those conditions to Mason, and I believe Mason never saw anything like us, because not only were we young black kids in a primarily white school, but we were also athletes, and not just athletes, but we were pretty good. So that only intensified the attention that we had on us, but the hunger that we had didn't go away. My first run-in with the police was at 12 years old. I was read my Miranda rights at Mason Middle School. So earlier in the day, I had a acquaintance. We rode the same school bus. The thing to do after school was to go over to the rec center and chill, play some basketball, and just, hang out and, talk stuff. So that was the thing to do for everybody pretty much after school. So, my core friend group and myself, we'd always go over to the community center after school. But this acquaintance, he always wanted to hang out with us, but we just, have him around type stuff. Anyway, he decided to get into some illegal activity at the rec center. He would steal iPods. So one day he gets on the school bus. He told me his mom saw one of his iPods, and he said that the iPod was my iPod because she wondered where this new iPod had come from. So, I'm like, whoa, what you mean you told it was mine? Like, no, it ain't mine. He's like, bro, it's cool. She's just gonna come up to the school and she's going to give them the iPod. That way you can just get it and then you can just give it back to me. So mind you, I've always trusted my gut feeling. So right away my gut was like, nah. But I just was like, yeah, I don't know about that, bro. He's like, bro, please, can you do it? So I was like, I don't know about that. I really left it at, I don't know about that. But sure enough, later on that day, I was called to the office, and in my head, I'm like, yeah, I ain't about to, I'm gonna say no. That's what I, told myself. I was called down to the office, and the school police officer, it was a woman, school police officer, she, brought me directly back into one of the little side rooms, and, she starts questioning me, is this your iPod? I say no. So she was like, okay, well, we searched the serial number, and we had, and I won't say the guy's name, but his mom came up and she said that this was your iPod, and we searched the serial number and it's come back stolen. And we've actually had a report over the last couple of months of material items being stolen from the rec center. Do you know anything about this? So I'm like, no, no. And it's simple for me, right? So she says, okay, well, we have you on video camera and we see that you go to the rec center quite often after school. So I was like, yeah, okay. Well, since we have you on video camera with you going to the rec center and we have this stolen iPod that's yours, I'm going to have to, you have the right to remain silent, XYZ. So she starts reading me these Miranda rights. Now, mind you, it's literally me and her in the room. The principal at the time, I won't say his name either, he wasn't in the room, and this is at middle school.
That time.
And I started freaking out. I'm like, whoa, what do you, like, can I call my dad? So she stops, and she literally stops in the middle of reading me my Miranda rights, and she says, yeah, you can call your father. He actually needs to come up here. So she tells me then he needs to come up here. So I call my pops. He came up there, and he starts going off, basically saying, what do you have against him? This is a he say, she say thing. You have nothing against him. He told you it wasn't his. He told you he didn't take nothing from the rec center. What do you want? They wanted to take me in for questioning, put me in handcuffs and actually take me in for questioning, but they didn't have anything except for he say, she say. So, my dad made that abundantly clear that was not going to happen. So, he took me outside of school that day and we just went back home. We had a real talk on what was actually going on. He had me text my acquaintance to explain to him what was going on as far as the cop trying to arrest me and, the iPod being stolen. So, I just texted him and said, hey, bro, the cop tried to arrest me. Your mom bringing down that iPod, that wasn't mine. And this cop just tried to arrest me for it. My dad just had to come and get me out to school. This ain't right. So he texted me back instantly and was like, bro, my bad. I didn't know any of that was going to happen. I just wanted my mom to bring that iPod to the school. I know it's not yours. So I didn't even go further into him self-incriminating himself. But we took that message and the next day brought it back up to the school officer. And she's like the officer for basically the entire school district or something. So, we brought it back up, found her, and showed her that. And she basically dropped her case. And I say case, quote, with quotations because, she didn't really have a case. She just had a whole bunch of theories on what she thought was going on, what was going on. And, I was an easy target. So she had no choice but to drop that whole theory against me just because I showed her the text that said, it wasn't me. So, despite her having me on videotape going over there, and, a couple other things on videotape, she didn't have any hard proof. And, ultimately that's what matters. So that was my first run-in with the police, and me being able to instinctually have my antennas up as soon as this guy's, trying to tell me, trying to make it sound so sweet. I knew that wasn't the case, and thankfully I didn't fall for it, or who knows where I'd be. But the next time I had a run-in with the police, it came at 15 years old, where I was wrongfully accused of sexual assault. See, growing up, my dad, he would always give me just stories about life, and I took those stories and really learned from them, subconsciously maybe, but I really was listening when he was talking. So one of the stories that he would tell me was about one of his friends who got arrested for sexual assault and ended up serving some years in prison in his teens and didn't get out until he was in his late 20s. So, one thing my dad always told me from middle school was, you getting involved with a chick, you might want to make sure you record it or whatever it is, because at the end of the day, it's going to be your word versus hers, and they always going to believe her. So, me being a young teenage kid, pretty promiscuous, I was wilding, and the young ladies, I guess, that I was, involved with, they were some little busybodies as well. But one time in particular, this chick, she tried to set me up, and when she did set me up, and doing the action, and a whole bunch of guys, they run out and they tried jumping me with knives and forks and a whole bunch of stuff. But I ended up recording the consensual manner that we acted out. I recorded it, and it was like my father was speaking to me that night, because I didn't have to record it, but that audio recording is what got me off, because I was probably going to be serving time just because her word, and the police, they believed it. They made sure that they took me out of school several times just to walk over to the municipal center, which, just to stay there for a second, one thing that really confused me about Mason is that, it's a voted 20th best place to live. It is very nice. However, the municipal center is right by the high school. And for the number of times that I was pulled out of class, and I say municipal center, not the municipal center, the where they hold their courts at and all that kind of stuff, right? So the police station is right by the high school. With the police station, being right there, I was pulled out several times to talk to police officers about different cases and all these different things. It's like, one can't help but think, why make that so convenient and expose, children to that environment in a place that's voted 20th best place to live in the country. I don't know, that's just my perspective, knowing what I had to go through. But check this out, the way I was even able to get away from the entire sexual assault manner was that, again, I had it on audio recording. If I didn't have it on audio recording, the detective, literally a detective that I was speaking with, he was very clear that things were not in my favor. It's just based on, what she could say and also who her parents were. Once I turned in the audio, it was actually dropped, the whole case. But one thing that really stuck to me, and the reason I felt like I needed to address this, is because I was still mentioned in an article, my full name mentioned in an article. I worked so diligently to protect my reputation that I felt like I had to speak on it, because, me speaking on this now, it takes the power away from anybody else finding out about it, especially as the brand grows and, as I grow. Definitely want to have my own perspective on that. So, yeah, if it never was a thing. That's why, I'm here to this day, because everything was consensual. My third run-in with the police, and really it was the staff at Mason High School, but partially the police as well. But it came in 12th grade at senior prom. See, at senior prom, my friend and I, one of my closest friends, we did a double date kind of thing. So he had his date, I had my date, we had a rental car, and we had a hotel for after prom. Plus we had a party pack, right? So we drive to prom, party pack is in a truck, in the trunk. And when we get in the parking lot, I didn't even have my mind really set on drinking prior to prom, because, it was already about to be such a live time at the hotel. So, we decided to drink a little something. So I'm like, all right, let me get a little drink. So take a little shot of some Grey Goose before we get into prom. And we decide to go into prom 2 different entrances because we knew, the staff, they'd be looking at us. So we go to 2 different entrances into prom, and, I go through clear with my date. He got his date, he goes through clear. But for some reason, I see this guy literally turn and say what's up to the principal, like dap him up and everything. Like, he don't even really mess with the principal like that, but for some reason this day he decides to be extra and talk to the principal. So I'm like, man, what is this dude doing? So I can't make things obvious. I keep walking and just go right into the prom room. I'm talking to everybody. They like, where your guy at? So I'm like, he out there about to come in, and we about to have a good time. So I'm in prom probably about 5-6 minutes. Next thing you know, the assistant principal come in. He looking at me. This dude points at me and just hit me with that one finger, like, come here. So I tell my, little shorty I'm with him, like, be cool. I'll be back in a second. So, I go out there, and this guy put the pressure on me, talking about, I know you guys were drinking, and, I know he came with you, and X, Y, and Z. So I'm like, at first I'm like, we ain't come together. I don't know what you talking about. So he's already told me you came together, which I don't know if he told him or not. He probably wouldn't even remember because he was drunk. But I really, the principal, this guy, he goes to extreme measures to get me caught up in some trouble, right? So check this out. He says, I know you were drinking. I know you were doing this, da-da-da-da. I'm sticking with no, right? I'm riding that to death. No, I wasn't. So this guy goes and, D'Angelo, just be honest with me, right? Hit me with the good cop. D'Angelo, just be honest with me. If you were drinking, it's all right, but we're going to have to, you're going to have to leave prom, and I won't get you in any more trouble. Also, if you have any more alcohol or anything in your car, we're going to have to get that out of your car as well. But just be honest with me, right? So he keeps me back there after I've already said no like 20 times. So then I finally would say yes. All right, I was drinking. So once I say yes, he says, okay, and you still have alcohol in your car? So I'm like, no. He said, okay, well, I need to check your car. So, I'm like, why? Because you have alcohol on the premise, and you can't have alcohol, and we're going to have to call the cops. So I'm like, dang, boy, I thought you was about to, you said I won't get in no trouble. So he's like, we're about to call the cops, and, we're going to have to basically have to call the cops, give you a breathalyzer, and also get the alcohol out of your car. So at this point, I'm like, wait, what? Like, first off, you hit a complete 360. Also, it dings on me like, wait, let me call my dad. So he starts walking out towards the car. We start walking out towards the car. So I'm like, in the middle of walking there, I'm like, let me call my dad. So he's like, yeah, call your father, tell him to come up here. So I call my father, my dad. No. He tells, on the phone, he's like, you got the alcohol in your car still? And I'm like, yeah. So he was like, don't let him in the car. Like, here I come. Don't let him in the car. So I told him, like, we get to the car. He's like, unlock it. I'm like, no. He's like, unlock the door. I'm like, no, I'm not unlocking the door. So he was, oh, okay. I'm gonna have the cops come over, and they're gonna make you unlock it, right? So I'm freaking out, right? So, I got alcohol in the car. I got a couple grams of weed in the car. It was a party pack, right? It was a great night. So all of that being said, man, I ended up not unlocking the door. The cop ends up coming over. He ends up telling the principal that, hey, he doesn't have to unlock the door, wait for his parents to get here. My dad got there. We don't unlock the door. Long story short, the cop tells me, like, you're going to have to deal with this with the school, but, I'm not going to breathalyze you. I'm not going to do anything basically to hurt your reputation. Just, you're going to deal with this directly with the school. So, the cop, he didn't ask me if I was drinking or anything. He basically just told me specifically that I deal with this directly with the school. You're not going to have a criminal record for it. So it really just showed that the faculty member, assistant principal, you know, my father and him had plenty of words, and we had to meet with the school board, all kinds of stuff. But that being said, he went above and beyond just to make sure that, you know, I would have had a real criminal record if he would have searched my car. And, you know, I couldn't help but think it was from the false accusations that I never was convicted, charged, or anything like that. But it was enough for him to go above and beyond, you know, with trying to get me in trouble.
You tired? What you gonna do? I'm fucking be great.
I've grown exponentially since my days in Mason, Ohio, especially in conscious awareness. Throughout this growth process, I can now look back and forgive the staff members that went above and beyond on several occasions to ruin my reputation. See, although I was an honor roll student and an exceptional student from their perspective, I also was accused of several mischievous acts that I never was found guilty of. Also, I associated myself with a core friend group that did not have the best reputation, along with associates that didn't really care how their reputation was perceived. I also forgive the writer and editor that mentioned my name in an article despite the case being closed and dismissed. Truthfully, it took me some time to forgive them because I really couldn't understand why would an adult try to ruin a child's reputation. Even to this present moment, I really could not understand why would an adult try to ruin a child's reputation when they see that all charges were dropped, the case was closed, there never really was a full open case, everything got dropped and dismissed. They didn't even fact check. They just decided to, you know, roll with whatever sounded the best. And then it dawned on me, actually, while recording this audio, I was like, wait a minute, hold up. They were on their journey of success. They are on their journey of success, right? When you're on a journey of success, man, at the end of the day, what matters is most of the time how you can feed you and yours, especially if you're not trying to make a real difference in the world. And that's partially why I don't really, you know, listen to news media outlets, your traditional news media outlets. But, you know, that's for another story for another day. But what I'm explaining to you guys is, you know, I forgive them specifically because at the end of the day, they didn't know me. They were on a journey of success. And when you're on this journey, you gotta eat. And sometimes, unfortunately, you don't really need all the facts. You just need to put food on the table. And that's real. That's part of this legal hustle. But if you don't take anything away from this entire episode, I'd like for you to take away these 3 things. First thing first, learn from your mistakes. See, I believe part of the reason that I was never caught doing some of the wild things that I was doing is because I learned from my mistakes. I never really repeated the same mistake twice. If I got caught up into some stuff, I would pray, you know, to the higher power. And thankfully, I was guided by God's grace, and so are you. And I always got a chance to learn from my mistakes. So with that being said, though, that leads me to number 2, which is don't give them people too many chances. See, if you out there doing your thing, however you're doing it, you know, you could right now, right? You're good when it's good. But that being said, you might even be good when you get a close call, right? You're like, man, that was close, you know? But the fact of the matter is, I feel like just in my own experience, you know, you really will get caught from the stuff you didn't do, not from what you're doing, right? You get caught on the back end from stuff that you probably had nothing to do with, or nothing that you really genuinely, something you really genuinely didn't do, and you genuinely probably wasn't even around it. That being said, it's those other things that you're doing that's getting you caught on the back end. So the way you stop all of that, all in entirety, is by simply not giving them too many chances. And what that means is you take ownership in the part that you caused. Even if you're getting caught doing something that you genuinely didn't do, take ownership in the things that you are doing and stop it, because your instinct will take you as far as you let it. And that's point number 3. Your instinct, you know, it guided me when I was living an illegal hustle style of life, but at the same time, it's been guiding me on this legal side. So that being said, it's the same for you. Your instinct, I'm sure it's been guiding you very far, whatever it may be, but it's only going to take you as far as you let it, because you can't give them too many chances. All of that being said, you know, if you like to learn how your instinct can actually help you in business, you know, I talk about it in the Intangibles, how I let my instinct lead me, guide me on my path of success throughout my day-to-day business of real estate investing. And I mean, for me to get as far as I've gotten and to go where I want to go, I'm convinced that it all lies with my instinct. So definitely check that out. But until that time, get to stepping.
Who would ever doubt me? Who would ever doubt me? Joke's on you, Goofy. Oh. Well, for the ones who loved it, for the real ones out here who enjoyed it, it is blurry, I see that. The work was real, you see that. Nothing from this season. Not sure what order I'm gonna drop these in, but if you don't learn nothing, no, as long as your heart in it, you already a success. My heart was in it the whole way. And I'm about to celebrate this weekend. It's a Friday, December 10th, last day of shooting. This moment is surreal. Anybody could do this. Let me tell you what's gonna set this apart though, because I already knew anybody can do it, right? Anybody can do this, right? Anybody can do that. Have a drone follow you in the sky, but what can't nobody do is take your story from you. And that's why I made this a story. I made this a season, a movie about my life, to catch y'all up to speed about where I'm at right now, because I'm still growing. And wait till y'all get the movie of this phase, because this phase has been one of the realest. Time is always now. It's the biggest thing. It's been in my mind for so long, but the time is always now. And I haven't even shared it with you guys yet. Still got to go edit it. Still got to go get B-roll. This was all the A-roll. Still got to get B-roll. Still got to get C-roll. Still got to shoot a whole bunch of more shots, but I already know it's here. I've already impacted millions of people around the world with this. And shout out to that one girl. I just watched this Netflix documentary last night with the hiking and stuff. Came out sometime around this time. You know what I'm talking about. By chance you watching this, who knows? But shout out to you. You're a real one for doing that. 14 summits, 14 peaks. Check that out if you haven't.